Okay. Kublan Abak Gemara. Today's daf is Daf Samach Aleph, Omer Aleph. Says the Mishnah. Mashel, again, we're learning things of Darkei Shalom or Takonis. We're trying to improve things in relationships. Says the Gemara, Masheles, Isha, Lechavatach, Shude, Al Shvius. There were people that you couldn't trust when it came to Shemitah. What do you mean you couldn't trust when it came to Shemitah? Because what happened was, in Shemitah, you're allowed to continue eating your food from the previous year until the animals in the field no longer can find any produce. Then you have to make all the produce, you have Hefker. Then you can acquire from Hefker like anybody else. But there are people we didn't trust that they would do that. So if your friend is chashuv that she doesn't follow the rules of Shvius, you're permitted to lend to her a nafa, a sifter, a kivara, or a sieve, or a chayim, a mill, tanner, and abu. You're allowed to lend her all these things. They might be using it for shmita, which is not the right thing to do. But because it's like a little like lifnei iver, you're helping do an avera. They might be using it for fruits of shmita. Nevertheless, we're talking about the shmita here. Nevertheless, because it's not at the time of the avera, it's before the avera. You're just giving them the tools. Because of Darkei Shalom, we're going to suspend the problem here of lifnei iver. But don't be active with her to help grind or to separate them, because now your mom helping her do an aveda. That's forbidden. Next part of the Mishnah. Eishes Chava, the wife of a Chava, somebody who was very diligent when it comes to the laws of Tula V'Tara. They ate the fruits only V'Tara. The Eishes Chava, the wife of Chava, Mash Elis LeEishes Am Oretz, can lend to the wife of Am Oretz, Nafa or Kavara. We're worried that Am Oretz, maybe they didn't give Meiser, maybe they didn't do the proper things. She's allowed to lend to them a Nafa, the same things, a Nafa, Kavara. You're allowed to lend the sifter and the sieve, and even though we don't mention the Tan and the Rechaim, Taisa says, according to one answer, it's the same thing, doesn't matter. Another answer Taisa says, we're worried that an oven, if the Amoritz makes a tummy, the only way you can fix it up is by breaking it, so you're scared to give an oven. So here, when it comes to the problem of Maisa, we have no issue. Go ahead and also you can go ahead and help her sift it, you help her grind and separate. So we're going to want to know why when it comes to Shemitah, we say don't be actively helping her, just give her the tools. And when it comes to the problem of Meiser, it seems that you can not only give her the tools, you can also actively help her. What's the difference? If you're worried that you didn't give Meiser and you're helping her prepare the food and everything else, how come? The Gemara will talk about that. Once you come to contact with water, so now it becomes prepared, ready to become tamei. And since the Amoritz woman is tamei, which means she was metamei at all, then like tiga ima, don't touch it with her. You're not allowed to help someone do an avera. Once it becomes tamei, you're not allowed to help do an avera, because the way the Mishnah sounds from here, it's an avera. We're not just talking about this row. It's an avera to make taras tamei. A chulin, talking about chulin here, ordinary food to make it tamei. It's also an avera. The Mefarshim try to work out what aver exactly is it, if it's just chulin. Anyway, the Kul Amru said, why did we allow her to give her the tools or to help her, even though it's a little bit of neighbor over here, you're helping out someone doing aver? Darkei Shalom. We want you to be peace with your neighbors. And next thing is, you're allowed to help a guy in the Shemitah year. You're not allowed to help a Yid in the Shemitah year working in the field, obviously. You're allowed to ask a guy, you're allowed to say to the guy, Shalom Aleichem. And Rashi says, what's the problem? Shalom is Hashem's name. And still, you're allowed to say Shalom because of Darkei Shalom. Gemara. Why is it that you're not allowed to help a woman when it comes to Shemitah because you're helping an Avera? Why, when it comes to Meiser, you are not helping? What's the difference? Amar Abai says, he says it in the Shabbos as well. The vast majority of Amaratzim they give Meiser. The whole thing of that we're worried that Amaratzim didn't give Meiser is only a Chumrah. But when it comes to Darkei Shalom, we're going to suspend that Chumrah. We say to the Eishes Chava, you can go help her, because definitely she probably gave Meiser. Rava says, no, I disagree with Abaya. I hold that Meiser by Amaratzim, some do and some don't. It's a suffix. It's a suffix of the Torah. And if it's a question if they gave Meiser or not, she should not be able to help them, because she might be helping them do an Avera. But what? The Rab Meir. We're talking about Am Haaretz Rab Meir, which means that we know for a fact the person gave Meiser. We're not worried about Meiser here. So what are we worried about? The Tumah v'Tara Rabbanon. We're only worried about here of Tumah and Tara Rabbanon. Abai is not worried about Tumah Tara Rabbanon, but Rava says, I am worried about Tumah and Tara Rabbanon, and therefore, since it's on Rabbanon, So according to Rabbanan, if we were lenient, we said you can go ahead and work with Amoritz. Abaye says no. As far as Tumah V'Tara, we would be worried, but what do you call it? But our Rabbis are not worried. Tan we learned.
What's an Amoritz to Rabbi Meir?
Oh, this is it. Tanya we learned in the Bryson. What's this special Amoritz? Actually, we had in Morasaita a whole big argument who's an Amoritz. Someone doesn't say Shema, someone doesn't wear tzitzis, someone doesn't wear tefillin. But that's for different rules, different laws, different outcomes. The time we learned, Eiz Amoritz. What's an Amoritz? Kol she'enu oichel chula b'tar Rameir. Rameir says, no, Amoritz is mice. He says, we're talking about Amoritz, we know it gave mice. But what's the deficiency of this Amoritz? That they eat chulin and they're not worried about tumah v'tahara. Chachamim say, Kol she'enu ma'aseh. We say that we believe that Amoratzim don't give ma'aseh. Rameir says Amoratzim give ma'aseh. So Rava says that our Mishnah, because the author of the Mishnah is anonymous Mishnahs are Rameir, that our Mishnah is talking about Amoritz. In this particular case, we're not worried about ma'aseh. We're only worried. Why not? Because definitely gave ma'aseh. But in an ordinary, if we don't follow Rameir the Chachamim, we're always worried that Amoratzim to give ma'aseh. We would not allow the Eishes Chava to work with the Amoritz. But our Mishnah follows Rameir, so there's no issue of ma'aseh. The only issue here is because they gave. The only issue here is Tum V'Tara. Since it's Rabbanan, because of Darkei Shalom, you know what? Go ahead and help her out. Says the Gemara, what you tell me to do with Tumah of Amalekani, say for the next line in the Mishnah is Mishnah Tatlas in the moment she added water to it. So now it can become Tameh. We don't want the Eish Chava to work. Like Tigima, Miklal Eish. So obviously the case prior to that is Labet Tumah V'Tara skin. Not Tumah V'Tara. It's like a Bayis. There's no Tumah involved before it got wet. So what is the issue with Amoritz? Meiser. And that's why we allow, because of Darkei Shalom, because we're not really worried so much about Meiser. Question of Rava. Says Rava Balun al Mishnah, Reisha v'Seifa b'Tumah v'Tara. No, the Mishnah with the Amoritz, when we're talking about Amoritz Rameh, who definitely gave Meiser. The only issue here is Tumah v'Tara. So what's the two parts of the Mishnah? First, the Mishnah says you can work with her for Tumah v'Tara, but if she added water, what's going on here? The Reisha is talking about Tumah's Chulin. The Reisha is talking about Tumah Chulin, which is only the Rabbanan. So therefore, for Darkei Shalom, we say you can go ahead and work with her. But Seifa b'Tumas Chala, Seifa is talking about already where you set aside the Chala, and therefore when it says here water, it really means not the water, but you already prepared, you needed the dough, and now you took away the Chala. Chala is Mahatayra. Mahatayra, you're not allowed to make a tummy. It says Mishmeres Tremoisa, you have to be careful. Anything you set aside for Kainim, you have to be very careful. So that's Achshash Narais, and that's why she cannot work. That's what it means. Yigamayim, water doesn't mean necessarily water. Water means you made the dough. Says the Gemara, but I have a question. It says in the Brisa, Teichnin, you can grind, umafkidin, you can grind, and you can give eitzel oichle shvis. You can grind and you can store by those who eat Shemitah. You know, you can, if you have a food, whatever it is, you can give it to somebody who's not careful of Shemitah because they won't touch it. It's yours. They won't tamper with it, and it's all right. And we're not worried that they're going to swap it for their own stuff. Why would they? But so mafkidin eitzel oichle shvis. But if you want to work with them, the eitzel oichle pay to say betuma. Sorry, those people are not careful of tuma. You can leave your things there because we're not worried they're going to tamper with it. But we don't want you to help grind, let's say, the wheat with somebody who's not particular about shvius. Nor to those who eat who are not worried about the laws of tumah. You, Rava. So Abaye is worried about tumah. You, Rava, said we are not worried about tumah because only the Rabbanan, and we suspend the laws when it comes to Amoratzim, Darkei Shalom. It says clearly here that you should not help grind somebody who eats Paris Betuma. Says the Gemara, again, it's a question on Rava. Who comes to defend Rava? Abaye. Amar Abaye. This is the beauty of Teda. How Teda, they really want the emes, and if Abaye is arguing with Rava, he's still prepared to go and defend Rava. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Hasam, they were talking about B'koyin hachashud lechel tumah b'tumaskin. Generally, we're not worried about tumah. Here we are worried about a tumah which is mahatayra. Which tumah? We're talking about a koyin. We're talking about a koyin, and a koyin who will eat truma, which is tameh, and that's also from the Torah. And therefore, if you're going to help her out, in this case, that's what the Bryce is talking about. If you're going to help her out, the wife of this koyin who has truma there's a problem from the Torah, and that's why you have to stay away. Says the Gemara, if we're talking about a koyin, then the din should be that mafkidin. How can you store things there? What do you mean? How can you store things there? What does storing have to do with helping? Because we learned a very interesting thing in the Brisa. But Amino last, we learned another brisa. Mafkidin truma eitzel Yisrael amaret. You can give to a yidin amaret a truma, he won't touch it because they don't touch truma. They know it's only for kohenim, they don't touch truma. But v'loy eitzel kohen amaret. But don't ever store it with a kohen amaret because he eats truma, so he thinks he's allowed to touch whatever he wants, and he's not careful at all. So if we're talking here about a kohen, and that's why you shouldn't work with the wife of this kohen amaret, because maybe the truma is tameh is a problem, and that's a problem of the Torah, then how come you can store things with them? Why are we worried that you're going to tamper with it? He feels very comfortable with it. You know what we're talking about? The klichedes, when we say you're allowed to store that, you're storing in a way that even the kohen touches it, nothing happens. How come? We're talking about klichedes, hamukav tummy possible, earthenware that is sealed. So therefore, because it's sealed, he can't put his fingers inside. You touch it from the outside, it doesn't become tummy, and therefore it's not a problem. The only problem might be now, an amaretz is only, we're not sure he's tummy, it's only a chumrah. So even if he shakes it, it won't become tummy. So they went, okay, but why aren't we worried that his wife will shake it? And a nida, if she shakes something, it does become tummy. So what can you do to make sure that you gave it to this kohen amaretz who's not concerned at all about truma, and make sure he doesn't make it tummy? When does it say don't give it to a kohen? When it's already prepared to become tummy and the kohen is very comfortable touching truma, then don't give it to him. But when it says on top of the page you could give to a kohen, you're talking about give what? Your tavua before it became muksha, before it became wet. So even if the kohen touches it, we're not worried. So I'll ask another question. It says, if somebody brings his wheat to a kusi, remember those are the geir that are very controversial, and to grind, to grind is so we say whatever, we're not worried that whatever you gave them they swapped. It comes to ma'aser shmita, we're not worried that they touched it or they swapped it for something else. We are worried that maybe they touched it, and we're worried about tumah. And yet before we said that you're allowed to store things by them. What's going on here? So what's the question? We just answered. When did we say you're permitted to store things by a kohen amaretz, or by an amaretz, only if it was not prepared to become tummy? So even if they touch it, who cares? So what are you asking me the same question? I'll tell you the same thing. Lava kumna, we said, we're talking about when are we allowed to store there? Only if it was not muksha the kavatuma. In fact, the Gemara says the what was the question in the first place? I don't understand. Says the Gemara, you're right. The question wasn't really that. It was leading into a question that you jumped in. He wants to ask another question. He was just leading into the other question. It says that is that what? That we assume whatever you gave them, is still the same food, and therefore if you gave ma'aser from it, it's all right. That you can eat it when you get it back, or the shemitah that he didn't change it for his stuff, which is maybe dinner later. But we're not worried about changing. Let me ask you a question. It said, if somebody gives to their mother-in-law, if somebody gave to his mother-in-law, let's say flour and water, he wants her to make a nice challah. He wants the mother-in-law to make nice challahs, nice bread. Before he gives to her, he makes sure he gives ma'aser. You know why? Because we're worried that the mother-in-law might take some of what you gave her to herself, and she will eat it and give you, supplant it with her own stuff. And she is going to eat something that you gave her. If you didn't give ma'aser, you were the one who caused her to eat something without ma'aser. If she eats herself of her own thing, what can you do? But if you gave her and she ate from it and you didn't give ma'aser, it's your responsibility. So make sure you give ma'aser beforehand. And when you take it back again, make sure that you give ma'aser again, because she might have put something of her own in there, which she didn't give ma'aser from. So what does he clear from here? That we are worried that she will change things. What are you telling me, Amaratzim, don't touch anything? And he said, we're worried that she might, things will get a little bit spoiled. She'll take it out and put her own thing in. Says the Gemara, that's a very different case, exceptional. A mother-in-law is different. You know why a mother-in-law is different? A mother-in-law tries to please her son-in-law. She goes out of her way to please the son-in-law, so her son-in-law will take good care of her daughter. So therefore, regularly they would never touch it. You gave them something, they'll leave it, whatever it is you gave me. Over there, the reason is she wants to make sure that her daughter is perfect, that everything is fixed. She's trying to help her daughter out. She's embarrassed for her son-in-law. So if there's part of the dough that didn't work out, she'll pull that out and put something else in its place because she wants to please her son-in-law. That's the only, so she comes from a good place. We're not worried they're going to steal. She comes from a good place, that's different. Says the Gemara, okay, that's a mother-in-law. And generally, we're not worried. But tonight we learned in the Mishnah that hanoisim lepundikois, if somebody is a guest in a hotel, let's say a yeshiva, they stay in these hotels. So we're talking about a Talmud or yeshiva. Whatever he gives her, he should give Maisa before, and the same reason, because she might take some of it out, place something else, replace it with something else, and she'll eat it, and you didn't give Maisa, you're the cause. The Eshehu Nait Leimena, and anything you take from her, Mipnei Shemachlefes, because she might change it. So again, Hossam Mairia, there she convinces herself, this is what she says. How beautiful. Bar Beirav, he's a yeshiva bacher, he sits and learns all day Torah. Leichel Chamima Ba'no Eichel Krira, let this yeshiva bacher eat hot food. And let him have the good food. So I'll have a chelik in his Torah maybe. I'll eat the cold food. So I'll take away the bad parts. I'll keep it myself, and I'll give them all the good parts. Again, she means well, but we're not choished they're going to steal. That's what it means. Others learn exactly the opposite. The taste is actually exactly the opposite. That she's saying, why should he? He sits on the bench a whole day and kvetches a bank. Just doesn't work for a living. He should eat hot food, and I should eat cold food. The other way around. I'm going to give him all the bad food, and I'm going to keep myself the good food. That's how Tosfos learns. Says the Gemara, I'm not worried about the rest of the world, but Tanya the Braisa, H's Chaver, the wife of a Chaver, Toichenes im H's Amaretz, the wife of a Chaver, a person is very particular about taras, can help grind together with the wife of Amaretz, Bisman she Tmeh, while she is Tameh. I believe Bisman she Torah, but not while she is Torah. We'll see. No, while she's Tameh, it's not a problem, because since it's Tameh, they're not going to touch taras, right? And so we're not worried that she's going to eat something that they didn't give Maisa from, because she's not going to touch anything, any food that's not Tameh. Now, Shimon Elazar says, but not when she's Torah. When she's Torah, she'll eat Torah things, that could be the Amara didn't give Maisa. Now, Shimon Elazar says, even while she's Tameh, like Titcha, she should not grind. Why not? Her friend will give her food, and the friend will give her food, and she might forget, and she will eat. And she will eat food she might eat, maybe because she feels bad the person gave it to her, and she might eat, and she'll eat the food which wasn't given Maisa. So now the Gemara says a fascinating thing, the way Rashi learns. They totally vehemently disagrees. Rashi learns that for a wife to give food to a guest without her husband's permission is a ganef, and therefore, if she is a ganef, of course she is going to swap, and she's going to give, and take the taras that they did, or instead of tumadiga food, she will take taradiga food. She doesn't care if she's prepared to steal. You think she's worried about swapping? Hash, but making them ganve, now that she's prepared to steal from her husband, because she has no right to feed guests without her husband's permission. Of course, we're worried that she's going to swap instead of the tamadiga food that they're working with, she's going to give the taras. It'll be a problem. Tosfos finds that very difficult. It says, when does a wife need reshus to have guests in the house and feed them? And therefore, Tosfos has another pshat here. But interesting machlekes between Rashi and Tosfos right here. Rashi, look at the top line. She is suspected to be a ganet mishal baila. Amazing. Says the Gemara. So therefore, she's going to swap. So how can we say that while she's tamei, she can go ahead and eat? Why aren't we worried about mice and all those things? Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara, you know why? This woman convinces herself the law is that if an animal is threshing in the field, because it's working, you're not allowed to muzzle it, you're allowed to feed. So she's convinced herself, because I'm working in the kitchen, I'm allowed to feed. And the way Rashi learns is she's not allowed to. She's not allowed to, therefore she's but the problem is she's convincing herself she's allowed to, and therefore it's going to happen, and there's no Isser over here, so therefore we're not worried that she's going to replace something. We're not worried she's going to replace something, because she gave food to the wife without permission is because she thinks she's allowed to. She thinks she's allowed to, because I'm working in the kitchen so hard. Why shouldn't I be able to invite my guests to help me out? But in reality, the way Rashi learns, she's not allowed to. Hey, Rabbi Shimon, just a few more lines, we'll finish. Hey, Rabbi Shimon, Mishum Yechanan, Achiv, Mishum Rabbi Elazar Mechisma. Rabbi Shimon said the name of Rabbi Yochanan's brother, said the name of Elazar Mechisma. Ein oisin chalas ha'ma'aretz betara. You're not allowed to make the challah of an ha'ma'aretz. In other words, if an ha'ma'aretz gives you dough, he says, here, I want you to separate the challah while you're tired and everything else. You can't do that. You know why? Because the dough definitely is tummy. If you're going to give the challah, this chaver, we'll give it to the kohen. The kohen will think, oh, it must be tired, and he'll eat it. So you're going to be machshel. You're going to cause this kohen to go ahead and eat tummy challah, which you're not allowed to. But you're allowed to take the flour and water, make the whole dough, and give the challah. That's not a problem. That you can do that. But that you're allowed to, because the whole thing is tired. Then, but what do you do with so you have two piles, you have the challah part and you have the dough. What you do is you place it you put it into these kelim that are made from leftovers of the waste from leather, and they're not mekabel tumah. And because these are not normal things, you put dough in. If this Amaretz is going to come over and he wants to touch the challah, he'll remember, why is it sitting in such a weird keli? Oh, it's challah, I shouldn't touch it. So therefore, you're allowed to. Can take both of them. I'm not worried. And likewise, same thing with olive. If he already prepared the olive and the oil and everything else, and he says, I want you to take truma, betara, don't do it, because the kohen will think that it's tar. But in reality, it's already tummy. The amaretz was wet, ruined everything. But if he gave you the olive and whole, he said, here, make for me oil and then set aside the truma, you can. But here the Gemara says, you put it in the kelim of the Talmud Chacham. And when Amaretz now comes to take, so you have two piles. You have the oil that you prepared, and then you have the truma. When Amaretz comes to take it, you take both of them, and the einu choshev, not worried. So you put it in the kelim of the chaver, and Amaretz takes it. Here we don't say put it in the kvisha, the chusa, because it's not normal to put oil into those things. Okay, with time in mind, what's the reason? Why do we allow this chaver to help out at all? I mean, we're asking for trouble. The gavel, the body. You need this is the livelihood. This chaver, the livelihood, he needs dough for people, or that's what he does. He presses olives. So therefore, we allowed him. We suspended any problems there. As long as you took all the precautions, it's good enough. Once you set the principle down, why do you have to tell me about olive oil and about the challah? It's the same thing. No, the Yashmin Gabli only about the one who needs Mishum the Nafish Agi. He hardly gets paid. He's a poor person. He needs every penny he can get. So we're very lenient. So you know what? You can go work for the Amaretz provided you start from scratch. I'm a bother when it comes to get press olives. The Nafish Agi gets paid a very nice wage. Hey Malay, why should we allow you to work for an Amaretz? On the other hand, V'yashmin and Bodder, that's why I have to tell you can. V'yashmin and Bodder, but an olive press, it's not common. It's not common. You don't get jobs all the time. It's a very seasonal thing when the olives are ripe. But challah, every day, every second day, you make challah, maybe in this case, why make special rules? Don't work for them or for others. You need them both. You said, you take the challah and you put it in these separate kelim that are not normal kelim. The takes both of them. I mean, not worried. Why not? But why do you worry that Amaretz will touch it? We said before, we said we are worried that Amaretz will touch it. And the only reason why we said it's not a problem is because you made sure it wasn't prepared yet to become tummy. This is prepared to become tummy. The truma and the challah you set aside. Why do we allow you to give it to Amaretz? You know why? So we say, Chazi, we tell him, we frighten him and we intimidate him. We say, you should know. I want you to know, if you touch this challah, this truma, it reverts back to tevel, it reverts back to as if you didn't give challah truma. So what does that help? The warning, the admonishment. You think he cares? Yes. It says he does care. And he specifically asked the guy, you're tired, set aside the challah. You're tired, set aside the truma. So this Amar does care. He wants it to be done properly. Is michbis layichbel? You don't think he cares? Amar is two of your lines. Amar, he said, "Noitli menek the truma menichel bekeres chaver." You have to put it the olives. You put it in the kelim of the chaver, the Talmud Chacham. And we want to know why. Sheba Amar is little. Noitli take things both. Ain't no worry. And the first that same question. Leichus truma nagav. Why the Amar will touch it? That he'll touch them. What do you call the truma, the olives? So when I said Mishleim Hasam over there, when you put it inside these, this keli made out of the waste of leather, nobody uses that. East Lake Keli, he'll be reminded, it's there because it's challah. This is a normal keli, just because it belongs to the chaver, it's a normal keli. And the chaver and the amaris might touch it. Why aren't you worried? He'll ruin the truma. We also use weird kalim. We use these kalim made out of stones and earthwood, which is not normal to put in the olive, the oil there. Therefore, when you go and touch it, it'll remember. Why is it here? Because it's truma, I shouldn't touch it. Says the Gemara, so my idiot the chaver. Why do you dafka use kalim that belongs to the chaver? I feel the amaris as well. Says the Gemara, hachinami kama. That's exactly what the Gemara means. But kalim shalama aretz. Kalim amaris are a toir that even a chaver, if he wanted to use it, he could, because these kalim galim are not makabel tumah, they're not choshev kalim, they're not makabel tumah, and this will also remind the amaris not to touch them. Okay. Sorry,
You don't want to finish the perek?
Oh, let's finish the perek. Okay, yeah, finish the perek. That's all right, you
We
guys.
haven't got much left, so I might as well finish the perek.
Okay, let's do that. So the Gemara,
Machzikin
a lot of help goyim for shmita. Saying Machzikin help them. No, on Shemitah you can go and toil, till the soil, all that. So the Gemara, Mashmei the Rab has clearly named Rab. Ein oidim akum. We don't want you to work the fields of Shemitah, even though it's with a goy. The ein koiflin shalom levucham. When you say shalom aleichem to goy, we said in the Mishnah you're allowed to, but you're not allowed to say twice shalom. You're not allowed to say shalom shalom. So the Gemara says, we'll come back to that. Remember, when we say in our Mishnah, machzikin doesn't mean we thought it means physically to help work. No, it means, remember, you're allowed to say achzuki balma, chazaka baruch. You're allowed to say, the force be with you. Rav Yehuda said, achzuki, strength to you. Rav Sheish Amalu asharta, should have force with you. In other words, not physically to help them, it just means you can say, give them some kind of compliment. The ain't kaiflim is not available for the goyim to work. The ain't kaiflim shalom. Don't repeat shalom twice. Rav Chizda would go ahead and jump in the Yoav L'Shama. He would say shalom aleichem to the goy first, because when they used to respond, they would say a double shalom. So he didn't want to be in the position that he had to say a double shalom. So he every guy that he saw, we had the Gemara Bracha Rabbi Yechim would do the same thing. Every guy that he saw, he would be maktim them shalom, and he would say shalom to them first. He said shalom, and the guy would say back salutations, whatever they said. Avkana would say peace to my master. But what he had in mind was his teacher. Even though he was looking at the guy, he had in mind his teacher, and this way he didn't even say shalom to the guy. He didn't even feel comfortable to say shalom to the guy, say Abish's name. So when he thought b'shas ma'is, he was thinking about his master. Fascinating taste at the bottom of the page. Fascinating tastes. Taisa says, Shalom Lamar, Pinish Bekuntus, Rashi learns, he didn't intend to bench the goy, he intended to bench his teacher. You hear what he says it. Even though he's doing for the best intentions, he doesn't want to use Hashem's name, but aren't you cheating the guy? The guy thinks you're being nice to him, you're greeting him. In fact, you're not even greeting him, you're greeting your teacher. And he says, I don't see why Rashi even had to say that. The Loi Carmel, then Kaifel Shalom. You're allowed to say Shalom to a guy. The only thing is he tried to avoid saying Shalom twice. Therefore, Shalom Lamar. He's talking to the guy, he's not talking to his teacher. Fascinating discussion here. So Rashi holds that if you feel that this is wrong api halacha, you're allowed to pretend, but you still, as a menschlichkeit, you have to do something. You're allowed to pretend as if you're talking to that person, whatever it is, and thinking a whole different kavanah altogether, and it's perfectly all right. And Tei says, no, I'm not so sure if it's all right. Maybe that's Genevas Das. We had more about that if you invite somebody to your house, knowing that he won't come, and you just want to be nice, that's called Genevas Das. Or if you already opened a barrel of wine for whatever, one customer, another customer comes in and he wants to taste the wine. So you know what? I'm going to open the wine for you. It's Genevas Das. Anyway, interesting. Let's continue Gemara. The way Rashi learns over here is that he didn't want to say shalom at all to this person. And it sounds like Rashi says in the beginning on the Mishnah, because shalom is Hashem's name. And v'sholim b'shleimim. V'sholim b'shleimim, you're allowed to say hello. Hashta arzuki marchin, you're allowed to say good on you, work on Shemitah. Sholim b'shleimim mibai. What's the problem with Shalom? This is a little bit of problem with Rashi's Pshat. According to Rashi, the problem with Shalom is that you're saying Hashem's name. What does that have to do with, you see a guy working Shemitah in the field, you say Chazak, be strong. So what? What does that have to do with allowing me, enabling me to say Shalom? It's a bit of a problem here. And how does this fit into the Gemara? And then what's the problem here at all? Yeah. And the Gemara says the problem of Shalom is something else. They're holidays, and you shouldn't acknowledge them in their holidays. Because the time we learned, don't go in because they think that you're trying to also say some nice things about their Getchka, their God. The Gittin Daf, give him peace. You found them in the street. You say with a faint voice, very subdued. No, but the problem is, according to the Gemara here, on their holiday, it sounds like you're greeting not just them, you're greeting their God. But there's no problem saying Shalom.
So if you say Shalom once, you're still saying Hashem's name.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's not a problem. Now, why?
Yeah.
So Rashi, the Mishnah said the problem is saying Hashem's name. How does that fit into the Gemara here, where the problem seems to be only on their holidays?
Yeah.
Being Hashem's name makes no difference, unless the problem is compounded by using Hashem's name to greet them on their holiday. It sounds like you're Trinity or something. I don't know. It sounds like you're using evoking Hashem's name and greeting their gods and their religion. And maybe that's a problem. But saying Shalom once is not a problem.
Yeah.
Why not if it's Hashem's name?
Yeah.
Okay, Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. We had exactly the same Gemara in Daf Lamed Aleph, but over there, it was a different question. So I'm not sure how exactly it worked, unless it happened different occasions. Rav Huna and Rav Chizda have a Yasvi. They were sitting. Cholavos Gneva. Gneva came by. If you remember Gneva in Rav Zion, Gneva was a big Talmud Chacham, but he really harassed Mar Ukva. Gave him a very hard time. We don't know exactly what the story is, but Mar Ukva wanted him to die. Mar Ukva actually wanted to go and inform the government about him, and he wanted him to die. And the whole Gemara talks about if you have to, he used a pasuk, if you have to underline or etch in the thing there. So this is Gneva. So he's a Talmud Chacham on the one hand, but he was a Baal Machlekes. One said rather, should we stand up for him? The Bar Urin is the big Talmud Chacham. Should stand up for Rabbi. He said back to him, we should stand up for somebody the Baal Machlekes. In the meantime, also he came to them. He said to them, Shalmu alaycha malka, Shalmu alaycha malka. He said, peace to you, king, peace to you, king. He's talking to Rav Chizda and to Rav Huna, and he said, peace to you both. Why are you calling us rabbis kings? He said, it says the pasuk, be melachim yimlochu, that Shlomo Melech says, be through me, through the Torah, melachim yimlochu, I will reign, these kings will reign. So we see that Torah, Talmud Chacham, somebody knows Torah, is like a king. Man Malki Rabbanan. Comes from this Gemara here. He said Shalom twice. And it wasn't like Shalom to you and then turn around to the other one. You say to both of us, twice Shalom. The king, you have to say Shalom twice. It says in Pasuk, the Ruach Lovshas Amosai, that the spirit clothed Amosai, Rosh HaShalishim, the head of the group. He said to David, he said that with you, David ben Yishai, Shalom Shalom Lecha, it should be peace to you. And then he said, V'Shalom Azecha, and Shalom to all your assistants. So he says twice Shalom to David and one Shalom to everybody else. So we learn from here, when it comes to a king, you have to say Shalom twice. And that's what they wanted to avoid, to say Shalom twice to a guy. So the Gemara, it seemed that they used to say Shalom as a response, they would say Shalom twice. They said to him, Litamami, do you want to eat something? He told them, it is forbidden for a person to eat klum, to taste even, until he feeds the animals. Now it says, first give the fodder to your animals, afterwards go ahead and be full. And in fact, this is the big shaila. If you look, you look by Eliezer, first Eliezer got the animals, but by the main Meriva, the pasuk there, what does the main Meriva in the pasuk there? He says, with the water, we'll have water for your animals, for yourself. So we in Shulchan Aruch, Rav talks about that. Maybe that their pasuk says first you drink and then the animals. L'chayr, it says right here you have to first feed your animals, then you. Eliezer is a separate issue, but over here l'chayr you have to first feed your animals and then you. So they want to make a difference between drinking and eating. And we're talking about even about time. This is unbelievable. You have these animal rights movement around the world, but no animal rights movement has this shitta that you have to feed your animal before you feed yourself. The Torah was so sympathetic, not only with with human beings, but even with animals. That if they see you eating and they're hungry, they feel they feel their hunger. You should feed them first before you feed yourself. It's an amazing halacha if you think about it. Hadrich halach hanazakim. That completes the Perik. Everyone should have a good vach.